Welcome to Here's My Thing. I'm your host, Frankie Salazar, and boy, do I have a good one for you today. Because we're covering a wide variety of some very controversial topics, including fat phobia, domestic violence, and none other than Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. So, to start this off, is Betty White fat phobic? Now, for those of you who don't know, Betty White is an absolute icon. Now, in my opinion, Betty White can do no wrong. But according to a woman named Sally Struthers, who I have absolutely no idea who that is, she's like a D-list actress compared to my girl Mrs. White, said that Betty White is fat phobic. And she claims that she was fat shamed by Betty White on multiple occasions and said that she is a passive aggressive woman when she's talking about someone being fat. So, anyhow, she is posthumously talking bad on Betty White. And when People magazine had reported on it and posted it to their Instagram, people came for Sally Struthers' girdle, or her neck, I guess you could call it, as probably Betty White would say, because the comments were probably less than desirable for Mrs. Struthers, because people were saying things like, we're not going to talk about my girl Betty White. Betty White can do no wrong. Betty White has the right to be fat phobic given her age and all that good stuff. Now, this came as a shock to Miss Struthers, as one can assume, and she doubled down, saying that she just didn't really have any good experiences with her, unfortunately, and it is what it is. Now, here's my thing on the whole passive aggression that Miss Betty White seems to allude, allegedly, according to Mrs. Struthers. When you're a woman, or just an elderly person, man or woman or whatever, of a certain age, you kind of have the right to be passive aggressive when you say things. I mean, you've lived this long, you're literally about to croak, like you're about to die. There is nothing else in the world that you could say or do that you're gonna have to regret. I mean, as an old person, you could quite literally walk around calling everybody that you think is fat, and what are they gonna do about it? Nothing. Now, what I want to say to Mrs. Struthers is she should be grateful because some of us had great-grandmothers like Betty White in her age who were not passive-aggressive. So, as we covered in my last episode, I used to be almost 400 pounds, and I was very big. And during that time, when I was struggling with my own weight issues, my great-grandmother, God rest her soul, would say things to me like, you know, it wouldn't kill you to skip a few meals. Maybe you should only put mayonnaise on one side of that bread. Have you ever tried not eating as much? And things to that nature. Now, do I blame her? No. Was she more fat shaming me or trying to consider my health? That's for you guys to say. I don't know. But like I said, my thing on it is when you're a woman of a certain age, you have the right to be passive aggressive, or like I said in this instance of my great grandmother, you could just kind of say whatever you want that rolls off the tongue, because if you're a fat ass, you're probably a fat ass. Now, moving on, we have to talk about this. Now, as we've covered in previous episodes before, I don't know why I have to keep mentioning this to you guys. Oh my God, Frankie, you're always so late to the story. This happened like a week ago. Here's the thing. I don't care. Because I need to give you guys my take on it, and I'm going to be a little late to things, okay? I work full time, okay? I was just hospitalized. For those of you who follow me on social media, I went into a cardiac arrest, almost, not really, and we're going to be covering that on my new show that's coming out here shortly, but just stay tuned for that. But my point is I'm very busy, and now we have to get in to the nitty and gritty of the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni controversy. Now, for those of you who saw the movie It Ends With Us, it debuted on August 9th of 2024 last year, and it stars none other than Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, who are both pretty much D-list actors. Justin Baldoni is arguably much more talented and popular now, given the controversy, because Blake Lively got her fame by just laying on her back with none other than Ryan Reynolds, who we also wouldn't know if it wasn't for the Deadpool series, because when you think Ryan, you think Deadpool, nothing else. Now, in the movie, It Ends With Us, for those of you who saw it, Justin Baldoni plays an affluent brain surgeon, right? And Blake Lively plays a girl from Boston who just is looking to fulfill her dreams and moves to the big city to open her own flower shop and be her own florist. and meets a lot of friends along the way, while Justin Baldoni secretly is domestically abusing her the entire time. Now, the controversy after the movie had, they were doing the press tour for everything, almost immediately started because Blake Lively thought it would be smart to try to ruin the movie just because she didn't like Justin Baldoni. And, her and her husband and Taylor Swift all felt that Justin Baldoni, even though he was literally the director, writer, and producer of the film, didn't deserve to write, produce, or direct his own film. Now, Blake Lively went and decided to go during the press tour to try to sell opportunistically her failing and probably awful hair care products that were absolutely flopping. I mean, no one was buying them. It was literally giving Tresemme at Dollar General, and she thought that she was going to make so much money off of this and thought that she could use a movie about domestic violence against women and only try to sell her hair products. So that left a bad taste in people's mouths, but the most damning nail in the coffin, undoubtedly, was when she and another less fortunate looking D-list, not even D-list, more like Q-list actress, who I have no idea who she is, and obviously no one else cares to know who she is, because even Blake Lively doesn't say her own friend's name in the interviews that she's giving. But I digress. For those of you who don't know, the biggest controversy happened when Blake Lively during the press tour had a little bit of a baby bump when she was on an interview with, I believe, a Norwegian woman by the name of Kirsten Flaa. Now, given that Miss Lively was pregnant, Kirsty Flaa took it upon herself to congratulate Blake in a much, almost heartwarming woman-to-woman kind of celebration, and she congratulated her on her bump. Her baby bump, which, when you have a literal human growing inside of you, you're going to get a bump. Now, I don't know what it is about women because they typically are on the opposite ends of extremes. There are some women on this side of the extreme who feel as though they get a glow and they love their pregnancy and nothing's wrong and all the endorphins are flowing and you're growing a mini me inside of you and it's just a wonderful thing. Then you have women who are like, oh my God, I'm literally getting fat and I'm ugly and they're just going through the motions and they're postpartum and prepartum and all these partums and this and this and this. And it's like, it seems that Blake Lively wasn't either of those. She just felt the opportunity that she could be a bitch to a woman who was literally infertile. To which Blake Lively, after being nicely and warmly congratulated on her bump, said to Kirsty Flaa, take it away, Blake, what did you say?
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
Congrats on your bump. To which her less than fortunate looking friend, who looks like she's made of paper mache, decides to show her ass in satin pants, the most unflattering things I've ever seen, and say, what about my bump? Nobody gave a shit about that. Nobody thought it was funny. Kirsty Flaa, as I mentioned before, is literally infertile. Now, did Blake Lively know this before she went on? No. But has she apologized for it? No. And that was the big thing after that, because after her less than fortunate looking friend decided to try to liven the mood up by kind of giving into, what about my bump? Blake Lively decides to look at her friend, completely ignoring Kirsty, who she just insulted, and say, no, not your bump. It's your lovely lady lumps. And if you don't believe me, just take it away, Blake.
They are kind of bumps, aren't they?
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
The reporter, after that stunt, where they were just acting like, the best way I could describe it is how people used to describe me in high school. Now, back in high school, when I wanted to bully somebody, because I was friends with all the girls, okay? And back in high school, when you're friends with all the girls, especially the mean girls, like I was friends with the fly bitches, the cheerleaders, the student council, all that stuff, the artsy bitches, everything, everywhere. When you're friends with those girls, and they tend to adopt you in their little cliques and whatever, and you're known as the boy who, I can't believe anybody really thought I was gay in high school. I mean, come on. Not only did I hang out with the girls, which I thought was like covering my gayness, because, oh, look at me, I'm with all these bitches, and like, I'm looking at, they're showing me their tits, and I'm having sex with them and all this stuff. Yeah, I don't know why people thought I was gay in high school, but I digress. My name in high school, given to me by my good friend Miyoko, Girl, if you're watching, shout out to you. But my girl Miyoko started this trend in high school where I was called none other than diva. Now, divas in high school, or just high school girly bullies, will typically try to embarrass you for talking to them and ignore you while you're right in front of them. It is quite literally the most demoralizing, dehumanizing thing that you could do. And unfortunately, I must say that I was a part of that back in the day as a closeted, fat, gay, smelly person who was just trying to look for validation from all the cheerleaders and their boyfriends. That is something that is literally high school bullying 101. Now, here's the thing though, Blake. You're not in high school anymore. You are a grown pregnant woman on a press tour about a movie about domestic violence and decide to make fun of a woman who literally cannot give birth, cannot bring life into this world like you and your husband can, while you're over here trying to sell tricks to have sex with Justin Baldoni, and when he denied you access, you decide to go on this total rampage, sue him, and, embarrass and make fun of this woman who's interviewing you. And oh my God, it only gets worse from here, okay? So then, after she makes her little insensitive and frankly just stupid joke about the lovely lady lumps, check them out, she also then decides, this is Kirsty now, this isn't Blake. Kirsty, the interviewer, decides to switch up the subject because she could see that the tension is so thick, you could cut it with a knife, okay? It literally, when I was watching, it felt like Nicki Minaj sat on my face. That's how thick that was. I'm not even kidding. So she decides to try to switch the subject, right? So as she switches the subject, she starts to ask Blake about the beautiful wardrobes. Now, frankly, in my opinion, the wardrobes were not beautiful. She literally looked like, she got it out of the Goodwill bin, because at one point she was wearing patchy overalls and floral dresses and all this stuff. The only people that really looked good when they were doing that party in Justin Baldoni's penthouse, for those of you who saw the movie, where they were all eloquently dressed in like this ball gown attire and whatever. But again, I digress. Kirsty had asked them about their beautiful wardrobes, to which Blake goes in and says, she's just reminiscing about how beautiful her dresses were and how talented the wardrobe team was and everything. Just kidding. She did not. She actually doubled down and somehow made it even worse by trying to insinuate that Kirsty was asking her, and allegedly the implication was that she was asking her a sexist question. And then goes on to talk about, I wonder if they would ask the men that question. My less than fortunate, ugly looking friend who I only put in this interview to make me look prettier. Do you think they would ask the men that question? To which Kirsty goes, of course I would. Like, what are you trying to get at here? I would ask anyone that question if I thought the clothes were beautiful in a movie. And then she starts talking about how the men wore literally high-waisted pants in wife beaters. Okay, Blake, so I'm just supposed to sit here and be like, hey, heterosexual man who should literally have zero clue about fashion, you look so good in your white wife beater that we probably got from Target across the street from the studio. Tell me about your wardrobe. And then he's going to say something to the effect of, yeah, like, I look really good in my wife beater and jeans. That's how a man would react to that dumb question, Blake. So why would we ask a man who's wearing high-waisted pants and wife beaters about his fashion? Oh wait, that's because you were trying to bang every dude on that set, and when they turned you down, you and Ryan Reynolds decided to try to take an innocent man who's directing this movie about domestic violence, a self-proclaimed feminist trying to bring light to a terrible topic and situation and things that women suffer with. You're trying to ruin his life now because he wouldn't sleep with you, and the gentleman wearing the high-waisted pants, which you say, and I quote, you wish men wore more often. We're back. Okay. So obviously, if I look a little bit different, the lighting probably looks a little bit different. The setup probably moved and looks a little bit different. So you'll have to excuse me for that brief interruption, but I recorded the first half of this video like over a week ago. And then so much has happened since then. I got a haircut, but I did make sure to still wear the same outfit so that way you guys wouldn't know if I told you or not. if I was going to come back and do the second half of this episode on a different day. But anyhow, to get right into it, just in the first half of the video, we covered about how Blake Lively was just being completely horrible to that woman, and pretty much we covered that she caught feelings with Justin Baldoni, at least in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, which caused Ryan Reynolds to kind of have this nasty, try to take Justin Baldoni down because he became very insecure, and in the wise words of Wendy Williams, the way you got him is the way you lose him. So anyhow, at the end of this interview that she's doing, though, the reporter looks like she just wants to cry. I mean, you could literally see it in her body language. She just looks like she doesn't want to be there anymore, and frankly, I don't blame her. And then she goes to YouTube and makes a video titled something to the effect of the Blake Lively interview that made me want to quit interviewing people ever again, or something to that effect. Now, I'm not really certain of what the timeline with the lawsuits and everything is, but I know that during the filming of the movie, post-production, the press tour, the SAG-AFTRA strike, all this stuff was going on. Well, then Blake Lively files a formal complaint in the Californian Superior Court, just a complaint, not a lawsuit. And in Californian law, or probably anywhere, but in Californian law specifically, typically complaints and legal battles and things like that are always private. Well, somehow the New York Times had, in the metadata of all their stuff, or the URL data, had begun writing up an entire smear campaign against Justin Baldoni before the complaint before anyone even knew that it had existed. And that's absolutely crazy because all the stuff in the courts are sealed completely. So there's only one person, allegedly, that could leak something like that to the New York Times for them to write their smear piece. And you guessed it, Blake Lively. Now, in the New York Times smear article, it pretty much is titled something to the effect of, "We can ruin anybody's career," just something to that effect. Like, they were boasting at the fact that they were going to get Justin Baldoni's career ended. Now, this is absolutely crazy because in the smear campaign or whatever it was that the New York Times wrote in their piece, they pretty much painted Mr. Baldoni to look like a porn-addicted, freaky sexual harasser, and even alluded to the fact that Mr. Baldoni may even be a pedophile. Now, these are insane allegations, which prompted Mr. Baldoni and his attorney to sue the New York Times to the tune of $250 million. So then sometime during that period, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds make a formal lawsuit and serve it to Mr. Baldoni, citing that he was sexually harassing her. Mr. Baldoni then countersues personally against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds to the tune of $400 million. Now, he and his attorney, being Mr. Baldoni and his attorney, think that there's definitely a case to be made here because leaked footage of the alleged sexual harassment and assault had been leaked by them. And in the video, we can see that, so we discussed in my very first episode that I'm trying to get into the acting world, and I've been professionally trained for a little under a year now, and one of the main components of acting is something called improv. Now, we all know what improv is. It's the ability to think on your feet and things like that. So Blake Lively was alleging that Mr. Baldoni was doing something called riffing or improving. And in the riffing and the improv, he was going out of character and, quote, off script in an attempt to touch her or caress her neck with his lips or whatever she was alleging. But then when the video came out of the alleged sexual assault that we're speculating Miss Lively doesn't even know exists, because why would you make an allegation of something that was quite literally camera documented? I don't know. But maybe she just doesn't have half a brain. I don't know. Maybe she's just dumb. But something tells me she isn't. I think there was just a lot of pride and a lot of, we're already knee deep into this and it just got way out of hand. So regardless, the video gets leaked and we can see that Lively and Baldoni have this interesting, almost chemistry. And Blake Lively isn't necessarily throwing herself at him, but she's definitely outside of her character as well, doing her little riffs and her improv in an attempt to get closer to him. and even kind of guides him a little bit and makes jokes about her self-spray tanner and how it stinks, and he compliments her and says that it smells fine and all this stuff. But she was trying to twist it and bend it and make it look as though Justin Baldoni was sexually assaulting her. And that is absolutely insane. So anyhow, not only was that footage leaked, but Justin Baldoni's attorney is more than happy to release every single unedited text message, email, photograph, whatever it is, of all of them on set, because Blake Lively had also used the New York Times and allegedly used doctrined photographs of the emails to kind of paint it and spin it again without adding context to it. For instance, she tried to say that Justin Baldoni was being strange at her and made her feel very uncomfortable by entering her trailer unannounced, according to her, when she was breast pumping. Now, we learned later on that that was complete bullshit because Mrs. Lively had invited him into there. So obviously you're comfortable with this gentleman coming into your trailer while you're breast pumping. Now, here's my thing on that, okay? I personally have family members and friends who didn't pump, okay? It's not like they were going to go to an event that day and they're like, oh, okay, let me get my breast milk before so my baby hasn't, maybe they're going to put it in a bottle or something. No. These bitches would literally whip their tits out at Chuck E. Cheese and let their kids suck on that shit. And I'm like, what is going on here? So breastfeeding is a very natural thing. I get it. I'm not trying to dog on anybody for doing that, but I just find it funny that Blake Lively's alleging that she cared that she was breast pumping when you literally invite a man into your trailer, and there are other women in the world who will literally not even breast pump, literally breastfeed a live child in front of people for the world to see. So then, get this. Just the other day, not too long ago, there was an audio clip that TMZ got their hands on. I believe it was TMZ first, but maybe it wasn't. They're the one that I'm going to use to put the clip up here soon. But it's Mr. Baldoni in his sleeping voice giving Blake Lively, leaving her a voicemail. Because at around approximately 1:30-ish, between 1:30 and 2 a.m., Blake Lively had sent Mr. Baldoni this long text message about all these issues and concerns that she was having because she felt as though she wasn't taken seriously enough in the industry, and she felt that she didn't know her place, and that, this is a man's movie and she needed her part, and blah, 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 blah. So then, Mr. Baldoni, the self-proclaimed feminist and lovely kind of pushover guy that he is, decides to send her this over 6-minute long voicemail. Now, in this voicemail or voice message, he, again, has his sleeping voice. So again, if I was Ryan Reynolds, I'm listening to this and being like, he's about to take my wife. Literally, I would leave my husband of 35 years and 6 kids if I heard this fool's voice, okay? I'm not even playing.
Hey, Blake. It is 2 a.m. Hopefully this does not wake you up. I want to start with an apology. Man, reading the second part of your message, my heart sank. And I'm really sorry. And share that with me. And I'm really sorry. I f***ed up. That is a fail on my part. One thing you should know about me is I will admit and apologize when I fail. I am far from perfect. I am a very flawed man, as my wife will attest. One thing that I do need to say, which is, I am so sorry you have been through what you've been through with these other filmmakers and producers or whoever the people were that you worked with. It just pissed me off. Those that I'm just still kind of blown away that this is the industry that we're in and that you've experienced that as a woman. And I know I don't need to say it, but that's not at all going to be or will be, and hopefully it's not been the experience with me. I hope you're feeling better, and give Ryan my love. Thank you for sending me that. It means the world to me that you trust me with your feelings and your thoughts like that. And I can't wait to spend more time with you. Okay, I'm done. Cutting myself off. Good night.
So you take this voicemail, and in this voicemail, you have Mr. Baldoni pretty much bending over backwards. He's literally bending over and spreading it 1 and 2 because he's over here just kind of glazing Ryan Reynolds. Because he could probably feel all the tension and all this stuff when he was set up with Taylor Swift coming into their house. Ryan Reynolds belittling the man he is by screaming in his face. All this stuff. He's feeling the tension, so he's just trying to keep the peace. But I also don't think that he was acting here or being fake. I think he genuinely felt Blake's concerns. And as a woman making a movie about domestic violence, he wanted to hear her, opinion on it. After all this boils down, they're battling it out in court. Their attorneys are leaking things. People are hiding from the press, doing all this crazy stuff. All this stuff is going on simultaneously, right? All of a sudden, as of a couple days ago, Ryan Reynolds now asks the court to completely drop the case. Now, I have a feeling that they knew that they were going to lose from the jump and just their pride got in the way. And pride will kill you. Pride and greed will literally kill you and if not, end your career. Now, let's be so honest. These people, at least Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively's only famous because she's doing him, and Justin Baldoni's famous, he's on the come up. Ryan Reynolds is quite literally a plus lister, and he is almost a billionaire. Okay? I don't know how I could spin that for you. So there is literally no way that his career is, quote, ended. Not to mention he's also his own producer and owns his own companies and all this stuff. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be just fine. So why these people are trying to get into the theatrics of seeing Ryan Reynolds go down, I don't know. But that's just what they're trying to say. In my opinion, he's not going to. But anyhow, like I said, they're now asking that the lawsuit be completely dropped because I bet they are shitting their pants now. Because Mr. Baldoni's lawyer is doubling down on all of this stuff, releasing all the unedited footage, and they know that they're wrong. If this goes to court, which it probably isn't now, I don't know what the status is right now, if it got thrown out or whatever, if it got dropped, but I'm not really certain how that works. Like if the countersuit is still alive, maybe they can come to some kind of settlement agreement, but getting sued for $400 million is absolutely insane. Now, here's my thing that you all have been waiting for. I feel as though if I could sum this up into one sentence, okay? Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds could both feel the kind of chemistry that was being built and growing. Because when you're in those kind of intimate spaces, like especially what I've learned in my acting classes is the basic premise of acting, even though it's quote unquote fake, it's just acting, you're acting from your soul. You're acting from your real life. You're acting from your experiences. You're acting from your emotions, okay? And when you're in a setting that intimate with somebody and you have to do multiple takes and you've read the script and you're collaborating with these folks, this is not something that can just be swept under the rug. Now, there are some people who could probably do an intimate scene and catch zero feelings whatsoever, but unfortunately, I don't think that was the case for these two. Now, during the press tour, Miss Colleen Hoover, in an attempt to try to make more money, sold the rights to Justin Baldoni, but then there was this weird little thing, this little controversy where allegedly Ryan Reynolds was going to offer her more money and all this stuff. I think that half the blame has to be put on Miss Hoover, and can we really trust her? I mean, really. Her books are not that good, and frankly, they're kind of scary. So if you'll excuse me, I'm going to read you an excerpt now from one of her books. I can't remember the title right now, but I'll go ahead and put it up on screen now. She says, and I quote, okay, I have it over here to the left of me on my monitor, so just stay with me, okay? She says, and I quote, "Thank you for this baby," she says from the back seat. "He's beautiful." I laugh. "You're responsible for the beautiful part, Rachel. The only thing he got from me was his balls." She laughs. She laughs hard. "Oh my God, I know," she says. "They're so big." We both laugh at our son's big balls. So yeah, that's a little excerpt from one of her books. It is absolutely insane. I don't really know how much power this woman holds in Hollywood or even in the writers industry. Like, do even other authors even respect this woman? I mean, selling out her entire movie for a couple $1 million and then trying to bid it to the highest bidder and then writing a piece like that and then alleging that Mr. Baldoni is the pedophile is crazy. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for the two big stories that we had covering Betty White and the Mr. Baldoni versus Blake Lively crazy lawsuit and all that madness. Now we're going to do something a little different. Over the past couple of weeks, there have been some crazy headlines that I want to share with you in a kind of rapid fire kind of style. Okay, so stay with me. First up, we have Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast, as of a few weeks ago, has officially surpassed the entire United States population in YouTube subscribers. Justin Bieber is now a transgender woman. I'm kidding. But if you take a look at the picture that I'm putting on the left of your screens now to the right of me, you can see that Justin Bieber is absolutely gorgeous in his winter wonderland, but he is absolutely completely naked other than in tidy whities, and unfortunately there is not much to be seen, Justin. Now, could he still get it? Yes. But is it a shame that it's not as big as everyone thought it was? Yes. Mariah Carey, none other than the Mariah Carey, has followed none other than Ice Spice on Instagram. Sabrina Carpenter was tapped to play Rapunzel in the live-action Tangled that they're going to be filming soon. And get this, guys, get this. I can't even make this stuff up. Benny Blanco has also been tapped to play, drumroll please, Flynn Rider. I can't even believe I just said that. Okay? But yes. He's tapped to play Flynn Rider, and if you take a look up on screen, as you can see, again, a couple weeks back in my very first debut episode, we covered the fact that I feel as though Benny Blanco could play the donkey from the live-action Shrek that they're going to make. He could even do it on Broadway. I don't know, but I think he would literally be the perfect typecast person for that role, and evidently other people on Twitter think it too. And I just thought that that was hilarious. As you can see, this girl here on Twitter said that she thought that he was going to play the donkey as well. So it wasn't just me, guys. It wasn't just me. Dua Lipa stuns in her new visa photo saying, "I know the airport hates to see me coming." Yeah, Dua, almost as much as this old lady hates your music.
Do you think you could look straight into the webcam and say, Dua Lipa is the greatest pop star in history for me, please?
I would never say that.
Alrighty, guys, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for today's episode of Here's My Thing, starring Frankie Salazar. As always, I had a complete blast, and I hope I didn't kind of, get a little crazy or get a little too deep or confusing with the story, but just let me know. As always, I would love to hear your thing. Now, this has been Here's My Thing, starring Frankie Salazar, and I will see you in the next one.